What do you make of the fate of the world under Trump? Clearly, you think we're better positioned with him as president of America?
For sure. First of all, polling shows us that Americans do feel as though they would be safer under President Trump. They think President Trump would be better to deal with multiple international issues. I think both were polled recently in terms of the Ukraine-Russia war, as well as the one in the Middle East. And Americans agree on both fronts that President Trump would be the better choice for us. I think it's interesting that you said that in Australia, you're more interested on talking about international issues. In America, we're usually focused on domestic issues, but here we are now going into an election also having to focus on these international issues because we're looking at multiple wars, both wars that did not exist. Like you said, when Donald Trump was in office, he actually focused very heavily on the fact that no war was started during his administration. That is a huge accomplishment considering the administrations before him and what we've seen, of course, under Joe Biden. And I think it goes without saying that the American people don't feel safe. It's very difficult for all of us. We have to worry about, getting food on the table at the same time that we're worried about World War III. The American people do not deserve that. Our allies, by the way, for example, in Israel right now, do not deserve what they're seeing. And none of this would have happened if we had Donald Trump in office right now.
I'm so glad you brought up Israel. That was the next issue that I wanted to cover. And I know a lot of people would have been comforted by the fact that over the past week, Trump has made comments to the effect of every death that has occurred since October 7 is the responsibility of Hamas, which is something that I believe here as well. I wanted to ask you about what he said tonight about Israel. I think his comments were very strong. He said that Israel should essentially finish the job of finishing off Hamas, essentially. He made comment that Biden was trying to be Palestinian and being a very bad one at that. Do you think tonight's debate would have reassured the people of Israel, particularly given Trump is traditionally an isolationist, but it sounds like he's passionate about this cause?
I agree, but look, I hope it actually reassures everyone, right? The war that's going on in Israel does not just concern the Jews and Israelis. This is a war they're fighting against an enemy that we share with them, right? Hamas is a U.S. designated terrorist group too. I'd also want to point out, Joe Biden said during this debate that the United States of America right now is respected, that no one wants to mess with us. And he somehow had the courage to say that while 5 Americans are currently in Gaza being held by this terrorist group for, I want to believe, if I'm not wrong, 264 days right now. That's happened under Joe Biden and on his watch. And he has the courage in that same time, knowing that the parents and the siblings and the family members of these very hostages are watching him, to say that America is respected right now. America is not respected right now. It's the reason that our allies are scared. It's the reason that Bibi Netanyahu had to complain about the way he's been treated by America. It's the reason that our relationship with Israel has started to crumble since October 7th, when the opposite should have happened, because we have an administration that is more focused on winning this election in 4 months than they are about keeping America and their allies safe.
Oh, absolutely. I'd also like to remind my audience of the time Joe Biden said they know not to when asked about the threat of Iran, and literally within days, Iran killed American troops. If he is a president and America is a country that is feared and respected by all, then that might just do me.
That's exactly right. It's sad. It's scary for all of us. And it's rough for me knowing what I just watched and also knowing what the reality is, right? Because I don't know how many people are simply being lied to versus how many people actually believe this is what is going on. We have a president, again, who just now spoke up during this debate. He's the current commander in chief, who said no American troops died on his watch. We just heard President Trump mention the Afghanistan withdrawal, I believe 3 times exactly during this very debate. And the fact that he had the courage to continue to say that is disgraceful. I don't understand why they continue to lie to the American public as they do. I think we're in a very difficult spot in this country, and we need to face what has happened these last 3.5 years and reverse course immediately instead of continuing to bury us into a deeper and deeper hole.
Just finally, Elizabeth, I'd love to get your thoughts on, I guess, the style of the debate. Prior to this kicking off, I was speaking to a few people I know about the fact that Trump would be better off not attacking or not resorting to name-calling, etc., etc. It appeared to me as though Joe Biden was much more the instigator of that than Trump.
I completely agree. And let's not forget that he spent, I believe, 7 days, right, locked up in Camp David preparing for this debate. And that's what he came up with, right? It was a lot of hoaxes, a lot of attacks, a lot of lies, a lot of name calling from the current commander in chief, who doesn't have a record to run on and instead has to resort to the name calling that you're reminding everybody of right now.
Elizabeth Pipko, thank you so very much for your time, and hopefully we'll speak to you soon before November.